Hello, my name's Lucy. Welcome back to my channel. I share videos on the topic of long COVID, chronic fatigue syndrome, and mind-body approaches that can be used to help those conditions and other mind-body conditions. I also offer coaching for people who are interested in learning how to apply a mind-body approach to themselves during their recovery. So today's video, I wanted to talk about high achievement and the impact of being unwell on people who identify as being high achievers. So people with chronic fatigue syndrome and long COVID might resonate with being a high achiever, or they might not. Of course, not everyone who has long COVID or chronic fatigue syndrome will relate, but some of the points that I make might be relevant to people regardless of whether you identify as a high achiever or not. And whether or not there are more people that achieve highly with this condition than are in the normal population is unknown. There is a research study that I've put below which compares a group of healthy people to a group of people with chronic fatigue syndrome. It shows that there are more traits related to high achievement in the group of people with chronic fatigue syndrome. So it's interesting, and I would love to see more research in this area. In terms of the video today, none of this is medical or mental health advice. I'm not a medical professional. I'm just talking about things based on my own experience and on the experience of people that I have spoken to with these conditions. The impact of being unwell on someone who's used to being a high achiever can be quite significant, because their lifestyle can change so much as a result of being unwell. One big shift is that if someone is used to achieving highly on a regular basis, and that is something that happens in their day-to-day normal life, you know, they do well at work, they get congratulated for doing a good presentation or for contributing a good piece of work for their company or their organization, then when you become unwell, all of that stops. You don't get patted on the back for things like you would in normal life when you're normally doing well at things. So the validation for achievement stops, and that can actually be really challenging for people who are used to having validation on a regular basis for their achievements. It mightn't be really big events and achievements that they are achieving. It might be having a pat on the back from a sports coach or from a supervisor at work for doing a good job. And for these people, that validation is more meaningful than it is to other people in some instances. But when someone is unwell, they may be unable to work, they may be unable to do sports, and they may have a feeling like they're falling behind their peers in terms of life milestones. And this can be a really big change and shift. Not having that validation can be quite difficult. Another impact on someone who's a high achiever when they become unwell is that they want to bring achievement into their recovery. So they are striving to do well in recovery. And the problem with this is that there are a lot of ups and downs, and it's not the same as achieving an academic or a sports related goal or a work related goal, because often those are more straightforward and there's a clearer path of knowing what exactly to do. Whereas with recovery, often there are a lot of unknowns, a lot of uncertainty, and on top of this, in order to recover, regulating and calming the nervous system is an important part. And if you are coming to recovery with an energy of pressure, of wanting to achieve, then that might generate a level of stress in your body. I remember when I was unwell, I was trying to study for an exam even though I could hardly sit up, and it was somewhat a sense of denial that I was unwell and that I really wasn't well enough to study for this exam. But I was used to pushing myself in times of discomfort, and I also was setting myself goals like, I will be well, I will be back to work in 2 months' time. And these goals, whilst they're really well intentioned, they can add a lot of pressure, because at that time, all I was thinking about was, in 2 months' time, I need to be able to work. So I need to see progress on a day-to-day basis. And when that wasn't happening, it was very difficult. It was disheartening. It was challenging to manage the level of anxiety and the stress and the pressure that I was putting on myself. Another thing about high achievers is they can also be perfectionists, or they want to make the right decision in certain situations. So when there's a decision to be made, it can be really hard to make decisions when you're recovering, because there's so much uncertainty. And because there's so much uncertainty, it can lead to people doing a lot of researching different types of diet, researching different types of physiological changes in this health condition, researching different things that can help. And whilst all of that could be useful in some respect, it also can be draining. And I've heard quite a lot of people say that they needed to move away from that in order to get better. A certain level of acceptance does help with the nervous system calming down, and we can't control every situation. And if we're searching for control in a situation and searching for answers, then we could be searching a very long time, because there is naturally a lot of uncertainty related to having one of these conditions. Another impact on someone who's a high achiever is that they may have a negative association with rest. So in order to be a high achiever, you need to push yourself on a regular basis to get work done, to achieve your goals. And often this means not taking a lot of time to rest and relax. And for some people, they have an association with rest that might be an idea that, for instance, if I rest, I'm a lazy person, or if I watch TV, I am not trying my best in this situation. So they may have very high standards for themselves and ideas that resting and relaxing are not a positive thing to do. And they may even feel uncomfortable resting. And the reason that they're resting is because they're absolutely forced to rest by their health condition and the fatigue. There was quite a lot of time where once I was well enough and I had enough energy, I would do a lot, because if I had energy, there would be no way I would choose to rest and relax. In my normal day-to-day life before I got unwell, it just wasn't something I would necessarily choose to do unless I was with other people. Thinking about your relationship with resting and what it means to you can be helpful, because for some people who become unwell, one of the reasons they became unwell was because they didn't rest when they were unwell and they kept pushing through things, and their body did need to rest during the time of the acute infection, and they didn't do that. And this isn't the case for everyone, but it seems as though some people are less used to resting, or feel less comfortable resting and taking time not being productive compared to others. Often high achieving people are also really highly independent, and this can mean that they don't like asking for help from others, and they are maybe used to being the dependable person, the reliable person, a person who always does their best when someone else asks them for something. And they're not used to it being the other way around, where they need something from someone else. And this can be challenging, because when you're unwell, it is either necessary or helpful to ask for support. This can be a really big challenge and make people feel ashamed or feel guilty or bring up uncomfortable feelings because it's not something they're used to doing, and they might have ideas about what that means about them as a person, and they might feel that it's really not good to rely on others. And this can cause a lot of stress. I definitely relate to this because when I was unwell, asking for help from others caused me so much stress that it fed into me feeling worse physically, and it was a catch-22. I had to ask for help, but I didn't want to ask for help. I didn't want to rely on others. This can be something that's really difficult about being unwell. Another impact of being unwell for a high-achieving person is that their identity might be connected to achieving highly. So their identity might be associated with all of the things that they've achieved. Maybe they identify highly with their job and they see themselves as that job being part of them and being part of who they are. Or they identify with being a specific type of sports person, being an athlete. And it can be difficult when that feels like your identity and then you become unwell and all of a sudden it feels like your identity is taken away. And then often during the process of being unwell, people need to learn to value themselves, knowing that they're not able to do that job or not able to do those sports or whatever activity it is you're used to doing. And that can be really challenging and take a lot of time to figure out and to come to terms with. And sometimes people are concerned about what others think of them because they no longer are doing the sport they used to do, doing the job they used to do. So if you're someone who resonates with some of these ideas, or you resonate with being a high achiever, then it can be helpful to reflect on where that came from in your life. So for instance, was there a lot of pressure to achieve highly from your caregivers growing up? Or was it the case that you got most attention as a child from your achievements and doing well compared to getting attention for anything else? Was it that you felt like you needed to be really independent from a young age and you decided that in order to do well in life and rely on yourself, you needed to achieve all of these things so that you are very self-sufficient? And perhaps it could be that you're proving to yourself that you are really capable and really good at doing different things as a way of proving that you can rely on yourself and that you are capable and strong and that you can do well. Often high achievement is not necessarily a sign that someone is really, really happy and content with their life. Often one achievement leads to a feeling of I need to achieve more and more and more. So understanding more about yourself can help, and being aware of how all of these impacts that I mentioned could potentially hold you back in recovery. If you found this video helpful, please like and subscribe. I'll put a link to the Facebook group and my Instagram page in the description if you're interested in joining or following. If you are struggling with recovery and overcoming some of these challenges, there's a link to my website and a link to booking a call with me in the description if you think the coaching could potentially help you. Thanks for watching, and I will see you in the next video.